Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling something that gets thrown around a lot. You know that old saying, money can't buy happiness?
Right. Seems harmless enough on the surface.
Exactly. But we're not just going to debate it casually. We're digging deep, using the, let's say, very direct arguments from A. Cordero's work.
Uh-huh.
Money buys happiness. The brutal truth.
And brutal is definitely the right word. Cordero isn't here to make anyone feel comfortable. No platitudes, no gentle suggestions.
Not at all. He
No.
calls most of the usual talk platitude and nonsense.
Yeah, his whole approach is about cutting through that. So our goal here isn't to agree or disagree, necessarily, but to really lay out his framework. We're just presenting what Cordero argues about how wealth actually works in the real world.
So if you're listening and hoping for maybe some confirmation that, your finances don't matter that much for happiness, well, this might be a challenging listen. Cordero really throws down the gauntlet from page 1.
He does. His core idea, his thesis, it completely reframes the question. He argues money doesn't just buy happy moments, it engineers the whole state of happiness.
Engineers it. How so?
Think of happiness like a complex machine. Money buys the essential parts. Freedom, respect, status, power, control, peace of mind, options, all these things. Without them, the machine just doesn't run properly.
Okay, so engineering happiness. Yeah, that's different. It's not just about basic needs like food and shelter.
Yeah.
It's about actively building a life where you're in charge.
Precisely. Cordero says without these parts, you're basically powerless. You're just, quote, reacting to life's punches. Not leading, just ducking.
Wow. Okay, and he has some pretty strong words for people who might push back on this idea.
Oh, absolutely. He flat out says anyone denying this truth is basically just comforting their failures. He suggests they haven't actually experienced enough wealth to understand its real power.
So he's saying their skepticism comes from a lack of experience, not philosophy.
That's the implication. Yeah. It's quite confrontational.
Right. So our mission today is to unpack all of this. We're engaging with this really aggressive viewpoint, not to endorse it, but to understand it. This deep dive is for anyone ready to, as Cordero puts it, challenge the bullshit and take a cold, hard look at money's role. So let's start where he starts, exposing what he calls the great lie.
Okay, chapter 1. Cordero goes straight for the jugular on the phrase, money can't buy happiness. He uses some really loaded terms.
Like what?
He calls it a cop-out, a verbal band-aid, even a defense mechanism for failure.
Whoa. Defense mechanism for failure. That's intense. Is he just being provocative, or is there a psychological argument there?
Well, his argument is that people say this because they're, in his words, too scared or lazy to pursue wealth.
Yeah.
The defense mechanism idea is that it's psychologically easier to dismiss wealth's importance than to face the feeling that maybe you haven't done enough to achieve it.
So it's about managing that internal conflict, that cognitive dissonance. If you want wealth but don't have it, just decide it doesn't matter anyway.
Exactly. That's the mechanism he's pointing to. And he really emphasizes the massive gap in lived experience. The difference between someone wealthy and someone, struggling financially, it's often invisible.
Yeah, that lived experience part seems key. He's incredibly blunt about it, right? Saying if you're poor, you're often miserable because you're poor. It's not just bad luck hitting you alongside poverty.
Right. He frames poverty itself as a direct cause of misery, not just a correlating factor. The scarcity itself grinds you down.
And you had that quote about who gets to say the phrase.
Oh, yeah, that one's sharp. He cites someone arguing that the people who usually say money can't buy happiness often, quote, literally doesn't know what life is like without money.
Implying that if you've always had a safety net, you just don't get the sheer panic and lack of options that come with real financial precarity. You lack the perspective to make that claim.
Precisely. It challenges the authority of the comfortable to dismiss the importance of money.
Okay, so that's the rhetorical assault. But then he moves into data, right? Because for years, that whole idea was propped up by one specific finding, the happiness plateau.
Ah, yes, the magic number. We've all heard it. That 2010 study, Kahneman and Deaton, it suggested that emotional well-being, like your daily mood, kind of levels off once you hit about $75,000 a year.
Right, it gave everyone a sort of permission structure. Okay, I don't need to aim too high.
But Cordero, using newer sources, basically says that idea is toast. It's been shredded, as he puts it. The big one is that 2023 collaboration. Killingsworth, Kahneman, again, actually others from Wharton, Princeton.
And what did that find? How did it shred the plateau?
It looked closer, differentiating between database feelings, the experienced well-being from the 2010 study, And life evaluation, how satisfied you are with your life overall.
Okay, so two kinds of happiness.
And they found that life evaluation, that overall satisfaction, just keeps climbing. It doesn't plateau at 75K or even $500. It goes up steadily with income.
Let's pause on that because that's the scientific core of his counter-argument, isn't it? Your daily mood might level out a bit, but your deep satisfaction with the life you've built keeps increasing with wealth.
Exactly. Cordero argues that's because as you get wealthier, the problems money solves get bigger and more meaningful. Fixing those bigger issues provides a deeper, more lasting sense of satisfaction than just, having a good Tuesday.
And there's specific data about the very wealthy.
Yeah, definitely. One source he uses points out that multimillionaires report being significantly happier than people who are just affluent. If the plateau is real, their scores should be similar, but they're not. They keep going up.
So the benefits scale way beyond just comfortable.
Right. So tying it all together, why does money do this? Cordero's synthesis is simple. Money gets rid of the constant background hum of stress.
Financial worry, limited choices, those daily little hassles that just eat away at you.
Exactly. He talks about cognitive bandwidth. If you're constantly worried about rent or a medical bill you can't pay, a huge chunk of your brain power is just gone, occupied. Money frees that up.
It buys back mental space.
That's a good way to put it. It buys mental space for other things: joy, connection, creativity, planning.
Cordero also tackles the hypocrisy angle, right? The super rich saying money isn't key.
Oh, yeah. He points to figures like Gates or Zuckerberg. They might say money isn't everything, but then, as he puts it, their actions scream otherwise. They use their wealth to exert massive influence, protect it fiercely. They clearly understand its power.
It's a watch what they do, not what they say kind of argument.
Totally. And for the everyday person, maybe the most compelling proof comes from that Harvard Business School study.
What'd that show?
It basically confirmed that having enough money lets you dodge life's annoyances. That unexpected car repair, the surprise medical bill.
Things that can send someone without savings into a total tailspin.
Precisely. If you can just pay it and move on, it's a minor nuisance. If you can't, it's a potential catastrophe. That ability to just handle things translates directly into less stress, more calm, which is, pretty fundamental to feeling happy.
So his final take on people who deny this.
It's harsh. He basically says they cling to the myth because admitting money matters means admitting they've dropped the ball. It's easier to deny reality than face personal responsibility for their financial situation.
Which leads directly into his first bit of practical advice, the actionable insight.
Right. Audit your beliefs. He's telling you, the listener, to really examine whether you use that money doesn't buy happiness line to justify not taking action financially.
And he suggests a practical test.
Yeah, a simple one. Track how small financial wins make you feel. His starting point. Save just $1,000. Put it in an emergency fund. Feel that little bit of security, that buffer. He says that feeling is the gateway. It's the first taste of how financial control actually impacts your day-to-day emotional state.
That first taste of security. And that security, that control, that's the foundation for the next big thing money buys, according to Cordero. Freedom.
Okay, so when Cordero talks about freedom, he doesn't get philosophical. He gets gritty.
So.
He defines freedom, point blank, as the gritty, tangible ability to say fuck you to bosses, bills, and bullshit obligations.
Wow. Okay, that's direct. But you can see the psychological truth in it, can't you? It's about not being trapped.
Exactly. He argues that without that financial power, you're essentially chained. You're in a state of what he calls compulsory servitude. You have to do things because you need the money, not because you choose to.
Like staying in a job you hate with a terrible boss because the mortgage is due.
That's the classic example. You endure it because you have no choice. The money gives you the choice, the power to walk away, to say, nope, not doing this anymore. That's the freedom he's talking about. It's bought with savings and investments.
And we saw the data connecting this to well-being earlier, that Harvard study about outsourcing hassles.
Right. Buying calm and control. Let's unpack outsourcing hassles a bit more. It sounds fancy, like only millionaires do it.
But it's broader than that.
Much broader. It's about using money to buy back your time and mental energy. Think about chores. If you hate doing laundry and cleaning, and it takes you 3 hours every Saturday.
And you could pay someone, say, $50 to do it instead.
Right. That $50 just bought you 3 hours of your life back. Time for rest, family, hobbies, whatever. That's outsourcing a hassle. That's buying calm.
That makes sense. And this idea fuels things like the early retirement movement.
Absolutely. Cordero uses the example of the frugal investor aiming for early retirement. The goal isn't just being stingy, it's a strategic plan to buy freedom. Short-term savings buy long-term liberation, the ability to quit that job you despise years earlier than planned.
Redirecting your life's energy away from just earning a paycheck.
Exactly. And he points out that financial freedom isn't an on-off switch. There's a roadmap, levels.
The Millionaire's Roadmap.
Yeah, it starts with just clarity. Really knowing your numbers, your spending, debts, assets. Then you move through stages of security, building up until you reach abundance, which he defines as having essentially unlimited options backed by sustainable wealth.
And a huge part of this journey is getting out of debt, right?
Oh, fundamental. Cordero is really stark about this. He defines a debt-free life simply as freedom from servitude.
Servitude.
Yeah. If you're carrying high-interest debt, a big chunk of your income isn't yours. It belongs to your creditors. You're working, in part, just to pay for past decisions. Getting debt-free is breaking those chains.
And this freedom isn't just about quitting jobs. It's daily stuff, too.
Totally. Daily autonomy. It's being able to, book a last-minute flight for a family emergency without panicking about the cost. Or maybe shifting to a less stressful, lower-paying career because your investments cover the difference. Or just hiring help around the house. It's designing your day-to-day life with fewer constraints.
Okay, so this sounds great, but how do you actually get there? What's the practical advice?
Calculate your freedom. That's the big action item.
The freedom number. Let's break that down. How does he say to calculate it?
Okay, it's based on the 4% rule, the safe withdrawal rate. You take your essential monthly expenses.
Everything you need to spend each month.
Right, and you multiply that number by 300.
300, why 300?
Because 300 months is 25 years. And if you can live off 4% of your portfolio each year, which is 125th, then having 25 times your annual expenses or 300 times your monthly expenses means your investments can likely sustain your lifestyle indefinitely without you needing to work.
Okay. So if my monthly bills are, say, $5,000.
Then your freedom number is $5,000 times 300, which is $1.5 million. That's the target capital base for financial independence at that spending level. Cordero argues knowing this number makes the goal concrete, not just a vague wish.
It gives you something specific to aim for.
Exactly, and then the work starts immediately. First step, usually the hardest, cut unnecessary spending.
Go through the budget, find the leaks, subscriptions you don't use, eating out too much.
All that stuff. Cut ruthlessly and redirect that money.
And the specific action he recommends.
Track every penny for 1 month. Identify 20% of your non-essential spending you can realistically cut. Then, and this is crucial, take that saved amount and invest it consistently. Broad market index funds are usually the recommendation.
So it's not just about saving, it's about putting that money to work to build passive income.
Precisely. That's how you build the foundation for that fuck you money, that real freedom, brick by brick, investment by investment.
Okay, so we've covered freedom, the internal feeling of control. Now, Cordero shifts gears pretty dramatically, right? To the external world, how people see you.
Yeah, this is where it gets potentially uncomfortable for a lot of people. He talks about social dynamics, respect, status, power, and he doesn't mince words.
What's the core message here?
He says, in a shallow world, money screams status. It's the loudest, most easily recognized signal of success. And that signal automatically commands a certain level of respect, opens doors, and gives you power. He basically says denying this is just being naive about how society functions.
He talks about wealth versus character, how people react differently.
Oh, yeah. He points out something we've probably all observed. People tend to fawn over the wealthy. They treat them with a level of deference, attentiveness, maybe even submission that someone without money just doesn't receive.
And his conclusion from that observation is,
pretty brutal. Quote, people respect money, not the person.
ouch. So the respect isn't earned through kindness or integrity. It's just a reaction to the perceived power that comes with wealth.
That's his argument. He sees it as fundamentally transactional. The respect is for the resources, the capability, not the individual's inner qualities.
But doesn't he also acknowledge other paths to status, like being brilliant or doing important work? He mentions competence and contribution bringing status later on.
He does, yeah. But he'd likely argue that while you can earn status through achievement or character, money acts as a sort of accelerator, a shortcut. It's proxy status. And crucially, money amplifies those other earned forms of status.
How did it amplify them?
Think about it. A brilliant scientist who's also independently wealthy Their ideas get more funding, bigger platforms, more attention. They can operate without institutional constraints. A brilliant scientist who's struggling to pay rent, their voice might not carry as far. Money buys reach and influence.
So it amplifies influence.
Yeah.
And he argues wealth often matters more than character for societal admiration.
Yeah, that's a key point. We often see troubled but wealthy figures celebrated as mavericks or geniuses simply because their financial success is so overwhelming. Anthropologically, he notes, wealth signals power, control, independence traits humans are instinctively drawn to.
And there's a psychological payoff to this status, even if it's superficial.
Right. There's research showing that respect from your peers is a huge driver of happiness, sometimes even more than money itself. But Cordero's point is, if society uses wealth as a shortcut to granting respect, then getting wealthy delivers that psychological benefit of peer admiration, regardless of the underlying reason for the admiration.
It gives you the feeling, even if the cause is shallow.
Exactly. And this leads directly to power dynamics.
How so?
Wealth lets you dictate terms. In business negotiations, legal disputes, even social situations, he puts it bluntly. Poor folks get overlooked. Rich ones get the table. Think about customer service. The wealthy often get personalized attention while others navigate automated systems. Money buys access and priority.
It's definitely an uncomfortable aspect of reality to confront, the idea that status is so transactional.
It is. Cordero forces you to look at the cynical mechanics of it all.
So given this reality, what's his practical advice? How should you navigate this?
It's about strategically signaling competence and stability, what he calls building visible wealth signals ethically. This isn't about buying flashy cars you can't afford.
Okay, so what is it about?
It's about smart investments in yourself and your presentation. Networking in circles where status matters. Investing in quality, durable things that project competence. Maybe a well-tailored suit for important meetings, reliable tools for your trade, further education, things that signal you're serious and capable, moving away from cheap, temporary stuff that might signal financial stress.
So invest in quality over disposability.
Right. And the next level is investing in skills that give you leverage.
Like what kind of skills?
High-value skills like negotiation, public speaking, strategic communication. Cordero's point is that money isn't just for buying assets. It's a tool to acquire skills that help you use your money and assets to gain more influence and status. It's a feedback loop.
Use money to get skills. Use skills to leverage money for more power.
That's the cycle he's describing. It's about ethically playing the game as it exists, using resources strategically to gain respect and influence.
All right, let's shift back from the external world, from status and power to the internal landscape. Cordero talks a lot about control, doesn't he?
Absolutely. He positions control as like the fundamental backbone of happiness. And guess what the key to control is?
Let me guess. Money.
Bingo. Money allows you, in his framework, to own your schedule, decisions, and destiny.
And without it,
Without it, you're constantly reacting. Your life is dictated by external demands, bills, bosses, market forces. You're not in the driver's seat, you're just reacting to the road or getting run over by it.
he links this to shaping your own story, right? Drawing on ideas from behavioral finance.
Yeah, referencing concepts from books like The Psychology of Money. The idea is that learning to detach your emotions from financial decisions gives you immense control. Money stops being a source of panic or euphoria and just becomes a tool, a logical resource.
And that detachment lets you rewrite your narrative.
That's the idea. Cordero argues that while our past experiences, especially around money growing up, shape us, our life stories aren't set in stone. They're malleable. Wealth gives you the resources and the agency to change the plot, to escape limitations imposed by your past.
That's empowering. And there's even research suggesting wealth can change thinking, possibly for the better.
Yes, that was interesting. He cites research suggesting that when wealth is used well ethically, thoughtfully, it can actually boost things like morality and strengthen relationships.
How might that work? Isn't the stereotype that wealth corrupts?
It often is, but Cordero's sources suggest the opposite can happen. Financial security can eliminate the scarcity mindset, that feeling that you have to constantly fight for resources. Operating from a place of abundance rather than fear can free you up psychologically to be more generous, more ethical, and less transactional in relationships.
Interesting. Okay, so that's control. But then there's the flip side of that coin. Peace of mind.
Yeah. Right. Chapter 5 is all about peace as the ultimate purchase. Cordero has this great metaphor. Worry is a thief, constantly stealing your mental energy and happiness. And money. Money is the lock on the door that keeps the thief out.
That connection between money stress and mental health is pretty well documented, isn't it?
Oh, hugely. Decades of research show clear links. Financial anxiety fuels general anxiety and depression. Debt, especially high-interest consumer debt, is strongly correlated with psychological distress. So simply removing that financial stressor has a massive positive impact.
It creates calm.
Exactly. That's the core benefit. Feeling financially secure can reduce anxiety. It removes that constant low-grade or high-grade fear of what if?
Why did
What
you?
if the car breaks down? What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? Security silences those what ifs.
And there was a statistic about people getting financial advice.
Yeah, a powerful one. Something like 86% of clients who worked with financial advisors and gained clarity on their situation reported feeling significantly more peace of mind. That's a huge majority experiencing a direct emotional benefit from financial order.
It makes sense why people might prioritize that feeling of peace even over getting maximally rich.
Absolutely. Cordero notes that people often value security more than chasing every last dollar because the constant worry and stress involved in high-risk, high-reward pursuits can just tank well-being. The goal shifts from get rich to stop worrying about money.
Okay, so how do we cultivate this control and peace? What's the actionable advice here?
He combines them. For control action, the first step is psychological. Master your money story.
Meaning,
Look at your past. What did you learn about money growing up? What anxieties or bad habits did you inherit? You need to understand that story and then actively rewrite it with concrete actions, budget savings plans, investment strategies. Take conscious control of the narrative.
and then implement those core financial decisions.
Exactly. The big three. Pay yourself. First, automate savings and investments before you spend. 2. Invest. Consistently use automation, dollar cost averaging, remove emotion. 3. Avoid debt traps, steer clear of high-interest consumer debt like the plague. Those 3 habits put you firmly in control. And the time audit.
Right. Track your time for a week, see where it goes. Then consciously use some of your savings or income to buy back time by outsourcing tasks you hate or that drain your energy. That's exercising direct control over your most valuable resource.
Okay, that's control. What about the peace action?
Number 1, non-negotiable. Build that emergency fund. 3 to 6 months of essential living expenses, liquid, safe. That's your primary buffer against worry, your main lock on the door.
The foundation of peace.
Absolutely. Then he suggests mindfulness specifically around money fears. Identify what actually scares you financially. Name it, understand it. That often reduces his power.
And finally, automation and routine.
Yes. Set up automatic transfers to savings and investments. The less you have to think about it, the less emotional friction there is. And schedule a regular time, maybe weekly or biweekly, to just briefly review your finances. Check your balances, track progress. That regular check-in prevents nasty surprises and keeps the worry monster in its cage because you know what's going on. All right, we're moving into the final sections of Cordero's argument. He talks about money as a shield.
Yes, chapter 6. This is where he shifts the motivation again. It's not just about personal freedom or status, it's about responsibility, specifically protecting your family or loved ones. Money becomes protection for the tribe.
So accumulating wealth isn't selfish here. It's framed as a duty.
Exactly. It's the tool you use to provide the essentials for protection. Good healthcare access, quality education opportunities, a safety net for emergencies. His mantra here is, to protect your family is to prepare for the unexpected. Saving and investing become acts of care.
And this involves more than just saving. There are specific strategies.
Right. He touches on safeguarding wealth, using tools like trusts. These aren't just for the super rich dodging taxes. They're legal structures designed to protect assets, ensure they're used as intended, maybe across generations, and shield them from lawsuits or other external threats.
So building a financial fortress around the family?
Kind of, yeah. And on a more day-to-day level, the practical provision strategies include the basics like diversifying your investments so you're not exposed to single points of failure, and having adequate insurance, health, life, disability. That's the financial armor.
But also things within the family dynamic.
Yes, like using allowances not just as handouts, but as tools to actively teach kids about budgeting, saving, maybe even basic investing, instilling financial literacy early. And he stresses the importance of joint financial planning, especially if one partner stays home, ensuring they have access, visibility, and security too. It protects the whole unit.
It's about building resilience for the whole family system.
Exactly. Turning a potentially vulnerable group into one that's prepared.
Okay, so money is a shield.
Yeah.
And that leads into his final big argument in Chapter 7.
Yes, the capstone, the oxygen of options. He says when you're just surviving, just trying to make ends meet, your options are severely limited. Wealth is what multiplies those options. And having more options, more choices about your life, that's the ultimate fuel for happiness.
Options are oxygen. That's a powerful image.
It is, and this connects directly back to the science we talked about earlier. He hammers home that no plateau finding again. Larger incomes are associated with greater happiness. Why? Because more money consistently equals more options, more potential paths, more ways to solve problems and pursue opportunities.
So satisfaction keeps climbing because the range of possibilities keeps expanding.
Precisely. The core message of the whole book really culminates here. Wealth isn't the goal itself. It's the ultimate tool for creating options. And having options directly improves your overall life evaluation, your satisfaction, and helps you escape those daily grinding hassles.
And seeing wealth grow can also boost motivation.
Yeah, there's a feedback loop there too. When you use wealth successfully to create a better life with more options, that success itself feels good. It boosts motivation, maybe even joy, which can fuel further efforts to build resources and create even more options.
So the final actionable advice centers on this idea of options.
Right. The final action for options is twofold. First, philosophically. Always. Invest for growth. See money primarily as a tool to generate more options, not just as a pile to sit on. Keep that forward momentum.
And practically.
Review your shield regularly, check your insurance policies, make sure they're adequate for your current situation, and actively save for specific family goals that represent future options. Maybe a dedicated fund for a child's specialized education, a sabbatical fund, a down payment for a more strategically located home. Make the options concrete through dedicated saving. Hashtag tag outro. So, to wrap up Cordero's brutal truth, that comforting little phrase, money can't buy happiness, he argues it's not just wrong, it's actively misleading, scientifically questionable, psychologically damaging.
Because money, in his view, doesn't just buy stuff. It buys the actual ingredients of a good life.
Exactly. Those key components, freedom, the power to say no, respect and status, how the world treats you, control owning your destiny, peace of mind silencing the worry, protection shielding your loved ones, and finally, options the oxygen of a fulfilling life.
These aren't luxuries, according to Cordero. They're the essential building blocks. Happiness has to be engineered, and money is the primary engineering tool.
And his final message isn't gentle encouragement, it's a demand. A call to stop making excuses, stop comforting failures, and start taking deliberate, consistent action to change your financial reality. It's about radical accountability.
It's definitely a demanding perspective. And on that note, we want to leave you, our listener, with a final thought, a provocation based on Cordero's framework.
All right, let's hear it.
If options truly are, as he says, the currency of joy or the oxygen of happiness, what specific real-world option are you sacrificing right now? Because you might still cling, even just a little, to the idea that money doesn't really matter that much.
That's a tough question.
Think about it. Is there a career change you can't make? A health treatment you can't afford? A move you can't pull off? An opportunity for your kids you have to pass up? What is the tangible, real-world cost of not having that financial freedom today? And maybe flip it. If you hit your freedom number tomorrow, what's the very first choice, the first option you would buy?
What would you do with that freedom?
Exactly. Let that specific, concrete answer fuel your thinking. And maybe, just maybe, your first step toward taking control and changing your own story.